Doctors looked at her husband and said there was nothing more they could do. She only had months to live. But what happened 2 years later shocked even the doctors. This is the unbelievable story of a girl born into poverty who lost her father, found love, and fought cancer when everyone thought it was over. There was once a little girl born into a family that had very little but loved very deeply. She was the only child of her parents. No brothers, no sisters, just her. Her father was a hard-working man, but life had never been easy on him. He worked long hours for little pay. Her mother ran a small roadside restaurant, the kind with plastic chairs, a charcoal stove, and a hopeful heart behind it. They didn't have much, but they had dreams. Every morning, her father would look at her and say, "My daughter will not suffer like we did." And her mother would smile and add, "You will go far, just study hard." Primary school wasn't easy. There were days her school fees were paid late, days she was sent home because the balance hadn't been cleared, days her mother had to beg suppliers to wait so she could use the money for her daughter's books instead. At night, the little girl would pretend to be asleep, but she would hear her parents whispering about money, whispering about debts, whispering about hope. But they never let her feel unloved. Through sacrifice and determination, they pushed her through primary school, then secondary school, and just when it felt like they had crossed the hardest mountain, life struck. A few weeks after she finished secondary school, her father fell sick. It started small, then suddenly it became serious. Hospital visits, medical bills, prayers, and then one heartbreaking morning, he was gone. Her world shattered. The house felt empty. The laughter disappeared. The strong pillar of the family was no more. At his funeral, her mother stood strong, but inside she was breaking. That night, her mother held her and said, "It's just us now, but we will survive." And they did. Her mother returned to her small restaurant business. She woke up at 4 a.m. every day, cooked, served, cleaned, saved every coin she could. Customers didn't know the pain behind her smile, but she had one goal. Her daughter must go to university. It took time. It took sacrifice. It took selling some belongings. But eventually, the admission letter came. University. They cried together that day. Not tears of sadness, tears of victory. University life opened her world. She studied hard. She remembered her father's words. In her third year, she met a young man. He wasn't drawn to her because of wealth. She had none. He wasn't drawn to her because of status. She had none. He was drawn to her strength, her humility, her resilience, her quiet determination. They became friends, then close friends, then something more. One evening he told her, "I don't just love you, I admire you." And for the first time in a long time, she felt safe again. They got married before she graduated, and from that moment, her life slowly began to change. Her husband took over her school fees without hesitation. "Your dream is our dream," he told her. He didn't just support her, he supported her mother too. He expanded her mother's small restaurant, bought better equipment, improved the space. After graduation, he bought his wife a car. He opened businesses in her name, encouraged her to grow, spoiled her with love and security she had never known. From struggle, they stepped into comfort. From survival, into stability. Then came their first child. The house was filled with laughter again. A year later, their second child arrived. Life felt complete. It felt perfect. But sometimes, storms come when the sky is the clearest. One evening, she started coughing. It seemed normal at first, but then there was blood. Fear entered the house again. They rushed to the hospital. Tests were done. Scans were taken. Doctors whispered. And then came the diagnosis: ovarian cancer. The word echoed like thunder. Cancer. How? Why? She was young. She had children. She had just begun to enjoy life. But the battle had begun. The treatments were painful. Chemotherapy drained her strength. Her hair began to fall. Her body became weak. The woman who once glowed with joy now struggled to stand. Her husband never left her side. He held her hand through every treatment, prayed beside her hospital bed, cried in silence so she wouldn't see. Her mother, who had once feared losing her husband, now feared losing her only child. The children were too young to understand. They just knew mommy was tired. Months turned into a year turned into 2. Doctors became less hopeful. Family members started preparing for the worst. There were nights when everyone thought this was the end. She became so weak that even speaking was difficult. Hope felt distant. 2 years and 6 months after the diagnosis, the doctors had little left to try. The family gathered. Prayers filled the room. Tears flowed freely. And in that darkest moment, something began to change. Slowly, her body responded. Small improvements at first. Test results slightly better. Strength returning little by little. Doctors were surprised, then hopeful, then amazed. The cancer that once threatened to take her life began to retreat. Weeks turned into months of recovery, and one day the doctor smiled and said, "You are in remission." It felt unreal, but it was real. Today she is alive, healthy, stronger, grateful. Her children run into her arms. Her husband still looks at her like she is his miracle. Her mother thanks God every single day. Their wealth means more now. Their love is deeper. Their faith is unshakable. Because they know they have walked through fire and survived. This is more than a story about struggle. It is a story about a mother's sacrifice, a husband's unwavering love, a woman's strength, and a miracle that came when hope was almost gone. If you are going through a hard time right now, if you feel like giving up, remember this story. Storms don't last forever, and sometimes the greatest miracles come when you think it's over. Never lose hope.